We said we're going to speak about our order or no? We got told, but we went till the end of the...
I think till Avo.
Yeah, so upon this he brings, what's the yisod from the whole Shakvetari here? When you get to the days in the Mekubalim, the Gabe, when it says in Sof, in Kabbalah, if the Kavanah is Atzmos, the Kavanah is Keser, Achlikis Ramak in the Mekubalim Arishenim, Mekubalim Arishenim held that in Sof is Koya la Keser, and according to the Ramak, in Sof is Koya la Atzmos, Vashikim Keser, you can't say in Sof. And according to that, there is also Mutze. Mitzadech in Sof is not Atzmos, and Sachini it's not Keser. I say in Shaila, and I say the Shaila is the Gabi Keser Guf, if Keser is a Kadman, if Keser is not a Kadman, if Keser is Mechudish, not a Mechudish. Also Machlekes in Mekubalim and the Ramak. So that's the Einzach. So what's the besteht the Yisat in the ganze Zach? What's the Yisat Advarim? So the first he brings one point, which is, and that's the Yisat of the whole in is the Shaila V'ni Avai Leishenisi. Pasuk says that there is no Shin in Elokus Mitzad in Abriya. But what's for a Shin Retzach da? What would be the Svar that there should be a Shin? Because every Ishabas, every Pu'ula from a Payal is Machayev a Shin. Because in order for the Mocker to be a Payal on something else, so the Kayach of the Makar has to be Nimshach, and has to be Nirgash in the Pu'ula, and the Dover where he's being Payal. That itself is a Shini. So you have the Inyan the way it is in the Makar, which is higher than the way it's Nirgash in the Pu'ula, and you have the Inyan the way it's Nirgash in the Pu'ula. So it's Inyan of Shini. You have two Efan of him and Evdim. You have the Inyan the way it is, the way it's Mufshit from Ashpa, and you have the Inyan the way it is in the Ashpa. The Ashpa is always not Kfi Eif in the way the Inyan is in the Makar. The Inyan is in the Makar, it's much higher than the way the Inyan is already Mizbate, and the way the Inyan is actualized itself in Ashpa Lupail. So the that's in Nafshinu. As al there's you have the Shalom Negate his Havas. So here he brings he brings a beer already in this keta. But what's Bashet the Shalom Bepashtus? The Kusman said that is Ein Sof. Velt is Gvul. So the Ebish is Mahave Velt, the Ebish is Machaye Velt. The Alter says in Tanya, side this Havas inside the Chayis. It's the Makir, I mean the Makir HaMahava is Misamtzin, to be Mislabish, to be Lefi Eif in the Mishava. You have separate Aces at Dibur, which are Melubish to be Mahava Shamayim. The Aces you hear Rakia, that's Mahava the Rakia. And the Aces of the other Mamaris are Mahava the Nivra, which are Nesava from those Nivraim. Then you have each Nivra also has Chayes Eliki, which is Melubish in that Nivra, according to the Tzir of the Nivra. So the Chore, if you have the Sai Legabi this Haba, Sai Legabi the Keich HaMahava Sabriya, Sai Legabi the Chayes, I mean there's in all these different inyanim. In the eifin of the Islapshus. But the Poel, we find that there is an eifin where the Dvar Avaya is mislabish. That means that he's miskarev and he's nimshach. To be a makir, it should be be'erech to mahava shamayim. And there's the ace is the keich aliki, which is mahava eretz, is miskarev and it's mislabish in order that it should be in a eifin that it's kaviyachol be'erech to be mahava the b'chin of eretz. That's the gabi des havas. And you have all that else, the keich aliki is mislabish to be machaya the nivra. Every nivra has a chayes eliki, which is melubish by, and every nivra has a different chayes eliki according to how much that nivra is able to handle. You have a chayes which is melubish in shamayim, you have a chayes which is melubish in daimim, you have a chayes which is melubish in sameach. So the choreh the chayes, the way it is in the makir, is higher than the way it's misamtzim and the way it's mislabish in the nivra. The nivra is noch be'en arech, lower than the makir. So the chayes, the way it's in the makir, is mishtane kfeif, and the way it is in the makir. That's the shayla of shine. Now, the Mizakt Ani Avalation is that in there's different Ifanim of Shini. So in all these Pratim, Sai Legabi Ishava, Sai Legabi Chayis, there's different Pratim in the Eifin Slapshas. That's not what he's going into this Maimer. But that's a Davar Bara, there is Amshacha. That means that the Eifin, the way that Varavai is Mahavid, the Nivra is in a way that he doesn't stay in his own element, Kaviyach. It's not that the Varavai stays mufshit from Velt, he stays in the state of the Makir, and from them Verta Ishabas. Ishabas is Derech Slapshas. He's Mechaya and he's Mahave, he's Mislabish in the Nivra. His Slapshas is Mechayiv Shini. That means that the Dvaravaya, the way he is Mahave, is not in the same Eifin, the way he's Mufshit from the Tnu of Ishabas. That's Mechayiv Shini. Mizak Tanei Violation Nisi, he says, Lei Yishum Shini Klal. Means the Edel stay Fanim of Shini Veskenzain. And he brings Kamei Fanim from the Moshel of the Nefesh Mechayas Aguf, the different Fanim of Shinui, the Keiches HaNefesh, the Etzem HaNefesh. The Etzem HaNefesh is Shinui, and the Slapshas is much more in the Edel Reifin. But Aval became in Nivraim, if there's a Makir, which is being Mashpia, something to Makabel, even in the most Edelste way possible, Epes HaKiruv, Epes HaSlapshas Muzain, and Meil there's some Musik of Shinui. So the Shaila, who does Zakman, Neva Alish Nisi Klal, there's no, ain't Shum Shini Klal. Mitzad Yisavos. That's the Shaila. So here he already gives a beer. The beer that he says is that the whole is, what's for the Pchinin Elikus? The whole is Havos. And the whole Chayis Abriya is only Neveh from Pchinas HaDibur. With Pchinas Dibur Gufa, there's Kaviyachal L'Shinu. There's the Dibur the way it is, higher than being Nislavish and Elamis. And there's the Pchinas HaDibur the way it's Melubish in each Nivra. The way it's Miskarif the Mahav the Nivra. There's a Shini in the Dibur Gufa. But Ani Avaya, Mashayim Maret V'gin Atzmi Solikus, which is higher than Pchinas HaDibur, and there's no Shini. Because what's Melubish in Velt and what's Nimshach in Velt? Only the Pchina of Dvar Avaya, only a Pchina Chitzenis of Elikus. And that Pchina Chitzenis tak, it's Melubish Kol Nivra Lefi Erke. And there's Taki Shinoim in the Ashpa. But since the whole system, the whole Makarais Havas, is from Pchinas HaDibur and Elikus, which Dibur is in Chitzeni Legamri Legabi Atzmi Elikus. So Atzmi Elikus gets sich Bechlam Nishtareis in Abriya. He's not Miskarib, he's not Nimshach, he's not Misamtzim with Erech Abriya. Because only the Dibur is the whole Makarais Havas only in Dibur. The Mele is not Ani Avaya in Atzmi Elikus and Ani and Avaya which is higher than, which is Ein Sof higher than Dibur and Primius Elikus. There's no Shini Klal. There's no, he's not Miskarib. And there's no Kiriv, there's no Amshach Klal to the Bria. And he's taking in of Ein Sof. There's no Shinuim, there's no Tuei Fanim in how Ani Avaya is and how Ani Avaya is Nimshach. And the whole system machine is only in Pchinas Dibur. Pchinas Dibur is audible that. That's the teretz that he gives in the we'll see later. What's the shakvatayr between the Ramak and the Arizal? The shal the Ramak and the Arizal is because for a different reason. The shayla is that we're going to see later. It brings later in the Maimer that in order for there to be a Havos Hanivraim, there's also a slapshus and a certain Amshach and Pchinas Ein Sof in Bria. If the whole Keich Havos is enough Kaviyachol, in order to be Mahavid the Nivra, what's Charez gesagt? It means which Keich Eliki would come into use Kaviyachol. Use such words would be expressed through his Havos. If it would be only the Pchina of Dibur, what we can't find from Dibur is audible. Vad Meila Nia violation is. The point is he doesn't touch this clearly as a whole. There's a focus in the Maimer, but that's the Yisad Advarim that we find that in order for it to be in the Inanais Havos, there's a certain Amshach of Insaf in his Havos. Kama Pratna, we see there's Amshach of Chinas Insaf in his Havos, and Ebazei Verte Shaila, so you can't just say Nevalation Nisi because the whole is Havos only in Chinas Adibur, because we find there is a slapshus from Chinas Insaf in the Bria. So Ebazei, how do you say, so Ashin in Insaf, the Ratman Nishkin, not in the Chitzeni of Dibur, Meredach that an Aniya Vayi, and the Insaf Velikos, the Atzmis Velikos, there is the way the Atzmis Velikos is Mufshit, and the way is not Nimshach in the Inanais Havos, and you have the way the Inan of Insaf is Nimshach in his Havos, so L'chorah der Shin, and that's going to be the Hemshach of the Shakvatari, that's where the Ramak and the Arizal come in. That's the Versteh the Minyan. It's not so ezgetach. In the Maimer, he says when he starts discussing the Ramak and the Arizal and the Mekubalah Marishenim, so in the Rebbe Shvased in the Maimer, how do you say it? He brings in this Inyan as a Bein Advarim, that there's Inyan of Ein Sof in his house, but he doesn't make it a separate section. First, he brings the general word, a violation. He's not verstehen how is this Agdom to weiter. But I'm saying the Pashas of the Maimer. First, he brings the Etzem Inyan that there's Inyan of a violation. You see, and the Pchinas Elokus which is Melubish Mamish means the Chayes Eliki which is Kaviyachol Niker Begoli. It's a Chayes of Tzameach which exists in the Pchinas of Tzameach, which that is no Shakvataria in the Kabbalah, and that's there's a slapshus of Chayes Eliki involved. That means that's Kaviyachol even without Kabbalah. Even before Kabbalah, it's a Davar Barat. There's a Chayes Elikis which is Melubish in each Nivra. There's a Chayes Elikis which is Shaychis to Gvul. So that is not a Chiddush of Kabbalah. The fact that there's the Inyan of Ein Sof involved, that's already a Zach was Kabbalah angeben reden. But that in the Maimer he brings it in as when he starts with a Shakvatari between them Kabbalah Marishay. That's the. But we just wanted to mention one word when we get to Order is that. So when you say the word to Order Bilvad, what's meant? It says the Moshe Lagabi the Nefesh. That Dibur is the Order Bilvad Lagabi the Nefesh. That's why he says that there's no Shinui. In Dibur, the whole, when we're talking about the Emes Keicha Dibur, Dibur is in all other Keichas, to say Seichel Omidis, they're all in Yonim Nafshim, and in Yonim is to be Megala the Nefesh. Or it's in the Veya Mitzat Shleimas a Nefesh, let's say. Mitzat Shleimas a Nefesh, so the Nefesh is Dover Shalim. So Shleimas besteht in them that he has Sayis, he's about Seichel, and he's about Midis. So the about Seichel and Midis enhances the Nefesh, let's say. So those are in Yonim, which are in Yonim Pnimim, which the nefesh is lashon in Dal Terebim Santarer. The nefesh is miskashit behem, means that they're inyanim which are meisif in the shleimas nefesh. Mashayk in dibur garnishes zu in the mensch. The etzem inyan of dibur is to fakert, it's a keich to detach. The person is able to detach himself from his inyan and to be able to relate to azulas, to relate to someone else. The whole seirach dibur is b'shil azulas. So there's no there's no expression of the nefesh in dibur. And that's also misvata, that the way dibur works, pashat begashmis, is that the hevel dibur is yetzel achutz. I mean, it's not an Indian which the person himself is investing himself when he's speaking. It's a hevel chitzeni legamri. It's not his hevel it's nothing to do with kaviyochel, the hevel that he lives from. It's a hevel chitzeni legamri. The fact that there is a slapshus in dibur, that's because of the person is malbish keich and nefesh in dibur. Other Indian, but the Indian of dibur itself, stamaz is saying words without being malbish and Indian in these words. Stamaz, the keich of saying words, is not a keich was snemt bechlanish the nefesh. There's nothing of the nefesh in that keich. It's ini chitzeni legamri. That's your person any misayif merev dibur. So the fact that the Eibush is meslabish and mahav enveloped, that's all the Elokus at Hashaychas to Gvul. So that's all the way Elokus is a marker for Elamis. It doesn't bring out his mohus. It doesn't bring out anything of his mohus. It's all in chitzeni. It be a marker for a velt. In order, the rakia is a davar mugbal, and there's the keich halaki, which is mahav the rakia. So that's not that keich halaki in yani is not to express kaviyochel Elokus. Elokus is in gitzich ishtareis in them that he's mahav rakia. And we're speaking about that pchina in Elokus, which is mulubish, which is miskarev. To be mahav velt, in that pchina, there's no expression of kaviyochel, what the atzmius of what Elokus is. Not even it's in the rechlal. There's no expression at all of the atzmius of Elokus. It doesn't bring out anything. Fakert, it's a tzimtzum v'ashpala, the whole end of his house. So it's in a chitzeni legamri b'dugmas dibur. The whole chayes Eloki, which is mulubish and velt, is all the gabi velt. It's an Indian, and the whole keich is a keich b'shvil to be a makar for Elmas. But his Indian itself gets a chishtareis. And is not expressed, and there's nothing. You say there's no advantage kaviyachol in Elokus from the fact that he's mahava velt. Doesn't express him. There's no aspect of any Indian which Elokus expresses itself through this Indian. So the shaila is, what's the pshat when you say the words ha'ara belvad? What does that mean? So this says that the Lashon brings here that it's chayes nimshach ba'elamis ein ze b'chinas atzmus klal ki b'chinas ha'ara chitzeni is belvad. This is Lashon atzmus in itself kadishim muvdol ve'eni mislabish chal ba'amen. So what does that mean? That the Eibush is not mahav the world? Say in Pashas Advar. Bidvar avai shemayim nasu. It touches over here that what does it mean bidvar avai shemayim nasu? That the whole keich halaki which is mahav velt is al derech pchinas dibur. That's a keich hitzeni legamri v'nefesh. So Vazvul Mazagan, that the Etzem didn't create the world, only a reflection of the Etzem Kaviyach created the world. Ha'ara created the world. As the Chas V'Shalom Zagan is, the Eibush had Aleim B'Shaf in the world. Bereshis Bara Lekim doesn't mean that the Ha'ara of Elokus created a world. We want the word Ha'ara, I'm saying that's just, it's a general point, it's going to be negay also later. But the word Ha'ara, that Chassidus brings, on one hand, it's I'm saying the musig of Ha'ara itself. The musig of Ha'ara itself is, if you look at this thing in its own value, if you look at, you say, let's say the mashal of Dibur. If you look at if you're looking at what the pchin of Dibur is itself. So what does Dibur contain? Dibur doesn't contain anything of the nefesh. It doesn't express the nefesh. It's not l'tzerech nefesh. That's if we're going to look outside, we're going to be made it. The Indian nefesh, let's say, is there's the shleimas nefesh, whatever the nefesh represents, and then there's Dibur. Dibur is a keich chitzeni legamri, which is only l'tzerech l'chutz. That's v'mekukta of them b'chitzenis, not b'chitzenis. You look at it, if we're being made it, how much does Dibur contain within the nefesh? Dibur contains nothing. But leidach mitzad amite se'inyan, from wann it stammt es that the nefesh is able to speak. Wann it kommt es if the Dibur doesn't contain anything. There's nothing of the nefesh which is expressed through Dibur. So wann it kommt es that the nefesh is able to speak. You see, if you have something that, if you have a makar, let's say, you have seichel, and seichel is a keich seichel. You're able to understand in you're able to figure out things, but you can't through keich seichel. You can't feel things. Let's say, why not? Because the keich seichel doesn't relate to that Indian. It can't be used there. The keich seichel has certain agdaras. The agdaras of keich seichel is that you could use it to figure out the pula of figuring out. That's an Indian which keich seichel is able to be mislabish in such a pula, and he's able to express himself. He's able to use himself. He's able to be megale keiche in the Indian of figuring something out. But in the Indian of feeling something, there's nothing from seichel but kan zachari zagen in them. So there's no shaykhs between feeling and seichel. So b'meili is mislabish there. If Dibur is in chitzeni legamri, there's no bitay nafshi. There's no expression of the nefesh in Dibur. So when it comes to stag that the nefesh has a keicha Dibur. If you say that from this makar stammt azazach, so there has to be that there's somewhere you could trace the makar and this thing which is being nimshach from the makar. If you can't trace back the makar at all, so then is zayin in gefitzach. So then so where's the makar of this Indian? You understand what I'm saying? So the emes is that we're saying fakert. If the makar was a davar mugbal, and he only contains what he has a certain seer of agdar of what the makar is, then in order for the makar for something. To be nimshach min hamakar is only if that something relates and has an erech and has a relation to the makar. But if he has no erech klal, so then he has no shaykhis then. We're saying something else. Since the makar, we say the nevesh al derech is also the same thing like a dibur. Since the makar, the pnimius nevesh, the atzmius nevesh has no gather, has no definition, you can't define it as in any agdara. Therefore, anything can come from it. That even the agdara, doesn't understand in dibur legabe the nefesh. But the word is, we say in our bavad, only something which lechatchila has no gather, has no agbala. There could be this musik of our bavad. Then he's not limited. If he's not limited, can understand as so his Indian is not mukbal to be dafka in a tzir of one. He could be in that tzir also. You understand the Indian? So like Abid Dibur doesn't understand, but there brings us in the Sikh in Yisri Chaligvav. From when attack stammt is that the nefesh has keach dibur. It's not that the nefesh contains within itself a keach to relate to someone else. That's not the pnimius of man and dibur stammt. Dibur stammt for them that the mitzat pnimius and nefesh, the fact that a person is detached from someone else is a certain gather, it's a certain agdara. That there's him and he's removed from someone else. The pnimius nefesh is not mugdar. Doesn't have that definition either. Even the definition, the mechitza that's mavdal between one and another, b'tzad atmis nefesh, that hagdara doesn't either exist. So if there's no hagdara, can erstein legabi azulas also.
Same time, it doesn't express.
So we're saying like this: if you're looking at dibur as a thing, as the tzir in itself, dibur in itself is relating to someone else. Doesn't express them at all. If you're looking at dibur mitzad, how much dibur contains? Dibur contains nothing from the nefesh. If you're looking from the point of view of Ein Sof, it's because he's Ein Sof, so he's not mukbal to dafka to his own tchum. The Ein Sof is not mukbal at all. From the pnimius, dibur is the atzmis and nefesh. It's not anything else. There's no separate mitzias of a ha'ara, of a reflection of the nefesh. From when it comes to that the nefesh has the ability to relate to someone else, because the pnimius nefesh is the chatchila mugdar that there's him and he's divided of someone else. But mitzvah inyan, there's no ha'ara. It's the etzem. It shows how we're looking at it. You say, and I'm saying is, you could only say this word if these two things are totally different. Saying in Ashpa, Rav Talmud, you say that this is mean again in the Gabi Barichas and Hemshech HaMaimer also. That's one of the, you say this is the Musik of Er, but just one word. Still much by Rav Talmud. So the Rav is mashpiyat at Talmud. He can't be matched with the Talmud the Seichel the way he understands it, because then the Talmud don't understand it. So he has to give him Be'efim Mitzumtzim. Now, when the Rav gives the Talmud Be'efim Mitzumtzim, so on one hand the Talmud is he's getting a little bit from the Seichel Rav. He's not getting the whole emek the way the Rav sees it. Does kind of Talmud Nishvashtin. He's in a lower level of the Rav, but a little bit it's a more mitzimtzimdik version of the svar of the Rav that the Talmud doesn't understand. So what the Talmud gets is only a limited version of the Seichel Rav, not the entire Seichel Rav. The Seichel Rav lechatchila is divided. There's the way he understands it, and that's higher than the Talmud being teifes. And then there's the element in the Seichel Rav, that part of the Seichel Rav that the Talmud could understand. That's when you speak about, on one hand, in our minds, the little thing that the Talmud understands is a percentage. It's a part of the Seichel Rav. A little bit of that Havana, of that Svara, that the Rav was machadish, the Talmud versteht, but only a little bit. Mer from der bissel hat nicht. By a regular case of a makar, maybe say it this way. If you're going to say, you ask without Havana, this. Okay, say someone Vert Bashaf in the world, say the Eibush Bashaf in the world. The Eibush created the world. So saying if you think into what he's saying, so the truth is that when he says the Eibush Bashaf in the world, the truth is that basic Havana is verkehrt than it's nicht be'emes the Eibush Bashaf in the world. As you say, when you get a person was masasek, he himself built a stable. The truth is the Etzem Adam didn't build a stable. There's kamei nanim in the person. There is muhusei la'atzmei, which from that pchine does the nisha reingelegt in creating a table. He creates a person who wrote a tzir, whatever the person did. His pnimius is not mugdar in the fact, is not bashtetish in them to write a paper. His pnimius is his pnimius, whatever in Yadam that his pnimius is monach. He has a keach hitzeni to be able to do kach v'kach. A person is even mechadish asvar. So how much of the nefesh is molubish in being mechadish the svara? That darge in the nefesh, which is shaykh, which relates to being mechadish asvar. That's the keich haseichel. The pnimius nefesh in Yoni is not. He's a mahusla atzmi. Yoni is not being mechadish svara. So it's pshitas nefesh. So when you say the Eibush Bashaf in the world, the Indian of Bria, That's not, no one, in them besteht the pnimis of Elokus that he's a mocker for Bria, that er beshaft Welten. The inyan of Bria is only teifis in saying if you're without the Havana Vara. So how do you understand? The musig of Bria also brings out the Elokus, not the pnimis of Elokus, a limited version of Elokus. The Eibush himself, his godless achveis is bligvol, let's say. A bissel from their godless is can nutz der Abashafen. So when without Havana Vara, then what was invested in being Mahava Velt? Only that pchina which was gitzachares in his house. Say the Rav is being mazbah seichot Talmud. The Rav has many inyanim besides being mazbah svaros Talmud. The pnimius Rav is not the fact that he's mashpia. The fact that he's mahusal atzme. So how much is the fact that the Rav is being a mashpia? How much of the Rav is concentrated and is connected to the ashpa? Only that element in the Rav which is a makkah for ashpa. And how much is the Talmud getting of Norvil the Talmud versteht? The chelik of the Rav, which is higher than the Talmud Asaga, that's b'chalman nimshach to the Me'ech Talmud. So if you'd say that same musik, that's only shaykhs by when you say not bavad means that the ashpa has value. The ashpa brings out the reason why the makir is from the makir comes azam esert inyan is because this inyan expresses the makir, doesn't express the full makir. It expresses a certain aspect of the makir. The makir has many inyanim in himself. It expresses a certain mitzvah version of the makir. So then you say that which part of the makir is melubash in the ashpa? Only that chilik of the makir that shaykh is to the ashpa, not the pnimius, not the etzma makir. When you say arbavad, you say fakert. Arbavad means that the makir mahave is not a separate muhus outside of the etzma. There's only the etzma. Because if you're looking at this muhus in itself, the muhus of dibur itself, the muhus of dibur itself is garnished. What is dibur? It's inyan chitzeni. That means dibur from the element of dibur doesn't contain the nefesh at all. So it means snishtaz is achvas says dibur. There's no such a thing dibur. So what's taka the pshat of this kecha dibur? That the etzem is not mugder. The mele he's not mugder. Can erstein in aleifan. He can be in dibur too. But when you're looking at the pulas of dibur, you're not seeing it from the vantage point of ein sof that he's not mugder. The mele can stein in aleifan. You're looking at the tzir of this ashpa. Versteht the chilik. If you look at the tzir of the ashpa, so then dibur doesn't contain at all the nefesh. So from wann taka stammt es? So wer redt es? Who's the one speaking taka? From wann stammt es taka that he's relating to azulas? Because he's not mugder altogether. So the body that he's in sub, he said if he's not mugder, so not being mugder besteht in them that he could speak to someone else. Not being mugder, that's the word Arab Bavad trying to say is that not that the ashpa doesn't come from the makir. That it's from the makir and it's only the makir, but the makir is not mugbal by this type of ashpa. This type of ashpa is not matfisim. It's not magbalim. Fakert mitzad the fact that he's not mugbal kommt as ashpa. So it means a better dogma a little bit. But if versteht bechol is the kivon inyan.
It looks like it's nothing.
So in Arab Bavad we're saying that the let's say take this mashal of dibur even. You're saying that when the person is speaking, he's relating to someone else. From wann stammt es that he's speaking to someone else? Where's the premise? From wann stammt the musik of dibur? Saying if you look at the chitzenius, you say where kommt es that the nefesh is able to speak? Where does the kecha dibur come from? Because a little bit of the nefesh, a little bit of the muhus nefesh is expressed itself in speaking. We can't say that because there's nothing of the nefesh which is expressed from speaking. So you can't say that from wann stammt dibur. From that pchin of the nefesh is a makkah for dibur. By seichel, you could say that where does seichel get its chayis from the nefesh? Because there's a pchin of the nefesh which is expressed in seichel. So seichel has value. Seichel is something which contains the nefesh. So on one hand, we're saying seichel contains the nefesh, but only how much seichel contains, not more than that. So seichel only contains the nefesh the way it shaykhs the seichel, not the nefesh the way it is b'pnim yusar. Mashik, if we're going to go in the same mahalach like dibur, we're going to say dibur. Wie kommt es that dibur is mekabel chayis and dibur is stems from the nefesh? Because dibur has within itself an inyan nafshi. See, dibur itself has no inyan nafshi at all. There's nothing expressed to the nefesh. He's relating to someone else. He's glatas is saying words to someone else. A voice that someone else could hear. There's no expression of the musa nefesh. So where is the coming the kecha dibur from? That the etzem is not mugder. Because the fact that he's not mugder, he's not limited. But Mela, how could he be magdirim that he cannot be heard to someone else? So if the yisad of dibur is that he's not mugder, so you say when something's not mugder, so dibur is a certain form of ashpa. The makir is, the yisod for dibur is the Ein Sof of the makir. So when you say that the yisod for this is the fact that the makir is Ein Sof, so you cannot limit, you can't say that it was bashteit der Ein Sof in this tzir. Versteht the meaning? Yeah, there's one more prat that has to be clarified. This, what I'm saying is, the Rekuda is, anytime you have ashpa, and the yisod of the ashpa is, because the makir is not limited, the makir is not limited in a specific form, then, let's say it this way, just to bring out this point. You say, you have the tzir, you don't have a mashal in Gashmis, but just, let's say you have a makir which is not mugbal. So if he's not mugbal, you say, Keich HaDibur. Keich HaDibur, Yachal Ledaber Diburim Inketz, the Alter Rebbe says. Why Yachal Ledaber Diburim? Not that the Keich HaDibur contains within itself Ribi Diburim. Ribi Eisis. Why Yachal Ledaber Diburim Inketz? Because it's a Keich to speak. There's no limit. There is no such a musig of how much speak. It's the Keich Ledaber. And therefore, he's not limited. There is no agbala of how much. That's so anytime, so on one hand you're going to say, when he speaks...
speak and not what?
There is no such a thing, how much speech. There's no how much.
Potential.
I'm trying to give a dugma. I don't want to bring something which is again going to make a sibuch. I don't know, to me sometimes this dugma is a good dugma, but if it works for everyone. But just to bring at this point of Arabavada we're trying to bring out. What I'm saying is, take a regular, you have regular gvor of a regular person. Regular gvor of a regular person is able to pick up a shvera masa. Some person is stronger, some people are less strong. So a person has a certain amount of keich that he has. Every person has a certain amount of keich that he has. To pick up a geringer masa, you don't have to use so much. Pick up a bigger masa, you have to use more. So if a person has, let's say, he's able to pick up 1,000 pounds, and he picks up 100. So how much keich did he use in order to pick up this 100 pounds? The amount of energy that you need for 100 pounds. That's not all this energy that he has. He has much more. He can pick up till 1,000 pounds, let's say. Let's say 1,000 pounds is a pula which is going to need his entire keich, let's say. To pick up 100, he doesn't need his entire keich. You need a little bit of his keich. So when this 100, when he's picking up 100 pounds, a little bit of his keich is being used, but only a little bit, not more than that. That's, well, let's take, I don't know if this is, but just say Shimshon HaGibber. So you say Shimshon HaGibber was, his gvura wasn't a regular human gvura. It's not the pshat that he had a grace muscles darten. And then when he cut his hair, it was a different type of gvura. It was a gvura. It was a getach gvura. It wasn't a regular a getach gvura. What's the pshat? You say the Eibusher's gvura, a getach gvura, gvura likis. So it's not the pshat that he has enough energy to pick up a ribi masai. So he can pick up 1,000 lions darten. He can rip the heaviest lion. He had that amount of keich. And when he did something else, he used a little bit of his energy. And then when he ripped this heavy lion, it was a different type of gvura. When you say that the Eibush is midas gvura, he's not limited in the musig of gvura. He has strength without limits. Different type of strength. We don't have strength without limits. We have a certain amount of strength. Let's say Shimshon HaGibber had gvura in the inyan of gvura, he wasn't limited in the inyan of gvura. He had gvura without limits. Let's say. Yeah, he didn't, here, the inyan of the which was his Gal in Shimshon, was an inyan of gvura. So let's say he had gvura without limits. Let's just be mitzayir if he had anything which has to do with strength, he had this kayach without any limitations. Not he had a very big amount of it. A very big amount is gvul. A very big amount of strength. He had the idea of strength without gvul, without limits. I just want to bring up this point. The point is, now when he went and he tzurisen a lion, how much energy do you need to rip a lion? Let's say you need to have a chves, someone's going to be made it. You need to have 1,000 chves, I don't know exactly, keich, that they need to rip a line. So, by Shimshon HaGibber, he used that, let's say, he used that a certain percent of his gvura. So, did he use a certain percent? He had gvura without limits. If you're being made it, wie viel keich davon haben zu zerreißen a leib? How much keich do you need to do? Let's say you need to have a certain amount of energy. So, if Shimshon's gvura was a very, very strong amount of gvura, a massive ton of gvura, so he used out a certain percentage of his gvura to rip the line. But if Shimshon's gvura was a gvura of, he wasn't limited in the inyan of gvura, he had gvura without akbalis, so this major amount didn't contain even a percentage of his gvura. Because his gvura is l'chatchilin ha-mischalik it was a different type of gvura b'chlal. He wasn't limited in the inyan of gvura. The unlimitedness doesn't express itself when he does a davar prati. He did a davar prati. What to do? He ripped a line. Is his unlimited gvura expressed in doing a davar prati? Is even a percentage of his unlimited gvura expressed in that? Even a percentage of his unlimitedness doesn't bring up. It's a pula pratis. So that's how arable vat on one hand. Leidach from Vanen Stamtake. Which gvura did he use to break this line? His keich gvura itself, not something else. Since he has gvura without limits, if you have gvura without limits, of course he could rip a line. And when he did something else which contains a lesser amount than ripping a line, he used the same midas gvura, not less. So if you look at the pu'ulas itself, and you're made it legabi the makar, this pu'ula doesn't express at all the makar. Le'idak, from the point of view of the makar, how is it that he's able to do this? If he's not limited, of course he can do that too. Because he's unlimited. So if you look at it, mitzad the tzir of the pu'ula that he's doing, you're looking at it from that vantage point. The tzir of the and you're going to see a davar prati happening. The davar prati happening doesn't express even a mashuhu of the keich that Shimshon used to do this pu'ula. But mitzad the keich itself, there was the same keich used, not like by a davar mukbal. You versteht das Einige?
Only the keich is expressed the same in a little and a lot.
It's not expressed b'chlal.
Or it's not expressed at all in any.
It's not expressed at all. But it's that keich being used every pulla that he's doing. When you say arab avad, it's fakert. When you say that is how it's from arab avad, we're saying that from vanen stammt es in a bria, it's from the same in stuff. If you say that the bria is not a arab avad, then you're saying that the bria contains and expresses a certain amount of elokus. How much elokus is expressed in a bria? A limited amount. So which pchina of elokus is melubash in the bria? Only a certain limited version of elokus, not the premise of elokus. So the Eibishter himself, Kaviyachal, didn't create the world. See, a regular person, I'm picking up a masa which only needs 100. You don't need the whole energy of the person. Only a certain chidik chitzeri of my keich. So how much of my keich is melubash in this pola? Only a certain amount. If I push the table, so how much energy of my hand is melubash in the table? A certain amount. How much is needed for the table? The rest of my keich is b'chal melubash, black to my yad. Mash'ega, when you say that this pu'ula doesn't express at all the makar. So from Van Taket Kumtas from the makar that he's doing it, he's saying this Shimshon had a midas gvura built in mukbelis. So you're going to say, how if Shimshon's gvura was bli gvul, how did he rip a line? To rip a line, you have to have 1,000 pechves. I don't know exactly. You need to have a certain. He didn't have that amount of keich. He didn't need an amount. He wasn't mukbal in that union. If you're not mukbal, hatar else. But if you're not mukbal and you have everything, if you're made it mitzad, how much the everything weighs, everything has nothing from the makar. From the vantage point of the pu'ula that he's doing, the pu'ula is the pu'ula pratis. A pu'ula pratis is gvul. Doesn't contain at all the makar. But the bli gvul, avad is not mukbal to be dafke gvul. You see what I'm saying? You're saying, if the makar is bli gvul, so avad there could be pratis de ka'esis. Not because he's a source, because he is also a source for limited asis. If he's not mukbal, so avad there will be asis pratis too. If he's not, you say the if the keich hadibur was a certain amount of how much he's able to speak, then if you speak 10 words, you used a certain percent of my keich hadibur. You used 30 words, you used even more percent. But if the keich hadibur is, he's not mukbal in dibur, he's not mukbal in kamas of asis, he doesn't have that limitation. It's a keich hadibur with arak balis. It's a keich to speak without how much to speak. The musik of how much doesn't exist there. He's able to speak. Then in order to speak one word, he doesn't need to have a keich for one word. He doesn't have the limit of how much. So avada, one word for sure he can speak. Not that he has a keich for one word. That keich hadibur which is not mukbal, avada v'taris kum an aleph on him. If he wants aleph to be an aleph, why not? So from his vantage point, what caused the aleph was the etzem. Not a keich which is masim to the tzir of aleph. I think that's in general the idea of arab avad. Arab avad was saying that when you're made, and that's it's totally zebazeh. Versteht the meaning?
Are the keiches also ha'ara, just of the nefesh, not that's a nefesh? Are they, is the keiches ha'ara?
Yeah, that's not negel in yanenu. In a certain way, the dibur, that's the Rebbe speaks in the Sikh of Yisrei, that when you say the word dibur arab avad, so the dibur is more connected to atzmis and nefesh than keiches are. What's that this in you? Because dibur is neveah from the etzem taki. That's why the sheresh of dibur is deeper than the sheresh of keiches. Because keiches are neveah from a b'chin the nefesh, which is shayches to ischalchus. Mashegen dibur is neveah from the etzem of the nefesh. Because the nefesh is not mugder to a certain definition. Therefore, if he has no definition, we're canceling barriers. If you're canceling barriers, he could also he could be for azulas too. Not that he has the power. He has an amount of power that works to relate to someone else. He doesn't have the limitation which divides him from someone else. He's not limited in that inyan. If he's not limited, B'meili is able to speak to someone else too. It's not a pashta inyan, but that's in general. What I'm trying to say is that when you say the avana ba'ar b'vad, it's saying it's not. Here, what's negay over here is that there's a shina in Nisavas. There's a kirov and there's a slapshus. That means there is a chayis eliki which is mislavish lefi erech the metzias avelt. Varavai shemayim nasu. That means that the dibur came be'erech to shemayim. That's al derech dibur. That's al derech that you have this in the nefesh which could relate to azulas. Okay, the nefesh to say words that azulas should hear. So we're saying this dibur doesn't contain the nefesh. The keich eliki which is mahave velt. This keich, if we say the Eibush is matzmiach, the Ilan is tzmeach mikatos agados. Does this express elikus? Tzmiach mikatos agados is a davar mugbal, it's a davar prati. How much keich do you need in order to affect tzmiach mikatos agados? A gewisser keich. A gewisser keich is that any erech to elikus, which is ein sof, is no erech at all. From when it comes to taka that there is a keich which is masim to the nivra, because the Eibush is ein sof. If he's ein sof, savada there could be tzmiach mikatos agados. This ein sof could be matzmiach mikatos agados. Not that there's a certain amount of elikus which mitzad that darge, mitzad that pchina, there's a tzmicha mikatos agados. This pratim, I'm saying the general havana va'ara, in a certain way, brings out more that this havos is from the etzem. Yeah, there's pratim, but that's that's nish negeh da. What's negeh? I just wanted to bavaran. Someone asked me something, but I just wanted to bavaran. But zahar bavad doesn't mean that. Reflection of the Eibusher created the world. The Eibusher talim b'shaf in the world. But we're saying, let's say that use the mashal of Shimshon, which gvura ripped the line? A certain percentage of his kayach ripped the line, or the same gvura, he had gvura lekis. With that he ripped the line. But that gvura is not misamsam lefi erech ripping the line. That gvura kameshehi can cite if he is not mugbal in the union of gvura. So with this kayach, you could say, you could rip a line, say you could break chveizvas, and say you could do anything. It's not mitzuyah according to the tzir prati was vertfanet. But that's the mucker, that's the pnimis. But I'm saying, but the pashas dvar, what he wants to bring out over here is just this vart. It affects the shayla of shinui. Shinui is only a shayla if you have the mucker into a fan. If you have the mucker, the way the mucker is mufshit from the pula, and you have the mucker the way it's mitzamsum lefi erech pula. But here he's saying the whole ishavos is a arab vat. If it's a arab vat, you don't have the makar into ifan. The makar in of itself is b'chalna miskarev to velt. Because velt is shalei be'erech. What's nimshach? If you look at velt itself, what does velt contain? Chitzein is tagamri. The premise is the Eibush himself. It's ein sof. I mean, because ein sof is not mugder, can verna velt eichet. And he could be, and he not only because he's not mugder, he could be for the other, without expressing himself. The fact that he could be in a state of not expressing himself at all, that's because the etzem is not mugdar. So who's the one that could be in a tzir of not expressing himself at all? That's the etzem, which is ein sof. The gabi hindus nagdars. So b'poel b'chitzein is he's not expressing himself. He's only there. He's only nimshach in a way that's mass into the zulas. From vanet kumtes take that the makar could be in a eifin that he's in a tzir, he's in a state where he's not expressing himself. He's only a makir lahavis nivra, only an etzem which is not mugder, which is there's no hagbalas legabi. Okay, we'll have to see him later. I feel him versteht this ganzen Minster. We'll see more in the Hemshech. In the Hemshech Maimarim, this is going to come up. It's going to be negeh. Everybody versteht the psak close the kibun.
If it wasn't anything besides etzem, we would have to do they have some shaykhs.
If the davar has a certain erech. Means if the reason why, so what do you mean you say has a certain error? Why does this thing come from the nefesh? Because this thing contains the inyan nafshi. So then it only has what it contains, nishmer. Hard is, there's the halay not garnished. If a man comes to staka, because the makir is not mugdar. Not because the makir is misamsun lefi erke. Because the makir is not mugdar. We'll see in the member of this chukas more pratim in this inyan. I mean, that this beer is always using chassidus legabe er, but it's also true legabe this word also. Yeah. Yeah, but a kapanim, the shaila is this is all legabe This is all the Dibur, this teretz. The shadow what the Maimer is dealing with is the lechura we find is in of ein sof, which is Hamshich and Belt. That's enough. Okay, but again a bisschen weiter. This Inyanim to Bislavet is very clear. I'm saying it's not Inyanim that you'll think about it a little bit. Let me get a bisschen weiter. Oh, so after this, he says, "B'zeh yuvan tam v'das haramak." Pirush shein sof nikra muhusi v'atzmuzi shel aberi mamish. V'chom asher netzal v'mimenu lenikra klal in sof. In a certain way, this b'zeh yuvan, in the Hemshech Advar Maimer needs a beer. I'm just saying the Pashas Advar. What does he end off in the piece before? That what's mislabish in Welt is the dibur. Mashiach the atzmi sevelakus is pchinas seviv kol almin. It's not mislabish. We say it's Shram B'S'Oretz Ani Moli. So that's he's not when you speak about the chayes of Mamali Kol Almin. What is he mechalik before? Where is the shayach the musik of shini? The chayes of Mamali Kol Almin, which is mislabish b'kol nivra lefi erika. There's the chodesh shini. As them zakter, it's a dibur, it's horrible bad. The pchin of Ein Sof. The pchin of Ein Sof is also in Welt. Ani mamish mali means the Ein Sof is in Welt. We're not saying that Ein Sof is not, but Ein Sof is in Welt. Kameshu. So because he's Ein Sof, so Meili is everywhere. He's also in Welt. That's a different word. He doesn't come lefi eifim Welt. That's the teretz that he says here. Which pchin of Elokus is misamsim lefi? The whole shaila of shini only begins if the makir is misamsim lefi erech l'nivra. So then you have a shaila of shini. You have the makir the way it is mufshit in the tzir of the nivra, and you have the makir the way it's misamsim lefi erech l'nivra. Mash'inkin, we speak about when he says at the end. So Ein Sof, Soviv is nimtza in Welt, not mitzamsim lefi erech Welt. The way he is Ein Sof. The way he is Ein Sof, so he's not mugbal. To be dafkin etzir of bligvo. Amitas Ein Sof is everywhere. He's ani mamish moli. But that's not a shayla of shinu. Ani mamish moli, at least his arponim is not a shayla of shinu. If the fact that he was there, you say the Rav is the Talmud understands the Rav. The Svar Rav was niklat by the Talmud. How did that happen? Because the Svara was misamtzim. Then it's a shayla of shini. But if you're going to find a way that the Rav Kamaishu, since he's Ein Sof, is everywhere, so there's no shini. Alein was is Ein Sof. He is nimtza b'kol makom. That is not a shayla of shini. So ubezeh this vert amitzad pchinas Ein Sof. There's no slapshes, and he's nimtza Kamaishu hulamato. Mit dem to verstehen tamadas aramak. That's the pashtus, the Hamshich Advar. Because inside the Ramak, because we're going to have to listen, but that's this verse is going to get later. According to the Ramak, even though there's a Savas inside Ein Sof, it's a Seviv Kalaman, but it's an Eifan of Einim Eslabish of Nitvas Klal. So Melas, there's no Shayla of Shini. We'll see that later. So the Bezei Yuvan is going on the last couple of lines. That when he's Nimtza in Welt, but not Mislabish, Mislabish means not by being Misamsim Lefi Erech Welt, there's no Shayla of Shini. Let's get Mizen. But until we get back to that, because it's going to take us to go into a different parsha for a minute. B'zeh yuven tamed asar amak. B's eret mefarish gven der in sof nikra muhusi v'atzmusi shel aberde mamish. Oh, so first, I just want to be marked in this. The reason to say later is mitzad the vart v'ani avay leishanisi. There's a kaishi in the shit of the Ramak. The guy with the shaila of leishanisi, the Mekubalim is more understood. Because what the Maimer is going to deal with is that there's an of Ein Sof in his house. So according to the Mekubalim, Keser is Ein Sof, and Keser is a Arab Avad legabi the Etzem. So there's no Shayla of Shini. The same beer is going to get the Chayes of Amalik Olam, the same beer works legabi the Chayes of Ein Sof, which is in Welt. Mashiach, according to the Ramak, that only Atzmas is Ein Sof. So the Chora Atzmas is Ein Sof, and we see an of Ein Sof in Welt. So according to the Ramak, the Teretz is Adarch we said at the end because the Chayes, this Havas in Satseviv, is not that he's mislabish to the erech the nivra. The male is not a shayla of shini, but he's going to say later. But bedakos is a shini. And these last couple of lines that he says that the guy be seviv, since he's not nimtzen, he's not mole, through being misamtzum of erech welt. The ani kameshu is mole. So Pasha is no musik of shini. He's not mishtane. He's kameshu. He's everywhere. But he's going to say later that bedakos is a musik of shini. But b'zeh yuvan, according to the Ramak, that this is enough to explain why, according to the Ramak, there could be Ein Sof in Welt, and it's not a Shayla of Shini. This is what before. But the Poel, this we'll see later. I'm saying, what I'm trying to bring out is what where the Ramak is Asi Shapir is not in this prat. In this prat is a Dechak, according to the Ramak. You learned all Maimer, yeah? This prat of Shinui, what he says, Yuvan, the Achre that we say, that that when there's in of Ein Sof in Welt, it's not a Shinui, we could say that there's Ein Sof, Ani Mamash Mali, it's not a Shinui, Ubezei Yuvan, Tam Vedas Ramak. But what's Asi Shaper, according to the Ramak, is what he's continuing to speak, not this word. Shinui is more masan from Kabbalah Marishenim. Just once we established that Mitzad Ein Sof, it could be Moli, without being Mislabish, came an Animered in the Ramak. That's the Hemshech Advarim B'chol. Is with me, or is a bisschen verhont? Okay, let me say. B'zeh even Tamadas Ramak, the Pirish, Shein Sof Nikra Muhutzi Vatzmuzish Laber de Mamish. Chol Mashenet Samimenu Lenikra Kalin Sof. The time, and this time, this is saying this is in them. The time, this is in this. He says later, the Ramak is Asi Shaper Yeser. It says like this: Ke'ein Leimar Lashon Ein Sof. Which, what does the Lashon Ein Sof contain? Lashon Ein Sof contains Shemer al Blig Vol Mamish, like all of his Barich Mamish. The musig of Blig Vol is only Shaykhs by an Atzmus. In Atzmus is Shlaber Mamish. V'lei al Davar Amasuba V'nimshich V'anu. Any Inyan of Gili, any Pchinin Alukus, any musig of Alukus, which is Nimshach from the Etzem of Alukus, is by definition not Ein Sof. V'hu Levad HaKadm Ein Sof. Only the Beri is Barich Levad, the Atzmus, the Etzem of Alukus, is the Kadm, the Emes HaKadm, the Emes Ein Sof. That's the Anoch of the Ramak. The Anoch of the Ramak is Ein Sof means Bligvol. Meira Bligvol Mamish. He's going to be mefaret two Pirushim the Musik of Ein Sof. But as even clearly, Ein Sof has Bligvol Mamish. Bligvol Mamish you could only say on Atz Muhusi Vatzmuza Shalabeir. Any Inyan Giluyim which are Nimshach from Alakus, expressions of Alakus, Inyanim which are Nimshach from Alakus, they're Inyanim Alakim. We'll see later. But Ein Sof Kamen is organized. Bligvol you can't say. Bligvol only Atzmus is Bligvol Mamish. Who levadi akadm ve'Ein Sof. So he starts being mefaret now. Kehini in Ein Sof who based varus. Two mashmos when we say the word. What's the meaning of Ein Sof? First taich is ha'alif shu b'chinas Ein Sof l'spashtuse. Shezo in Ein Sof bligvol. She Ein Sof l'spashtuse. We say the word Ein Sof. We're not dealing now with the mehusa inyan. You say where is the inyan mispashet? Where is he felt? Where is he pale? You say there's what a thing is. You say there's a candle. So you have, what is it, a fire? Now, how far does the fire extend itself? How far does he shed its light? How much is he mispashet? How much is he his inyan nirgash? How far does he go? There's a certain amount of how much every single thing is mispashet. There's what the thing is, what's the definition of this thing, and then there is where this thing could be felt, and where he could be mayor, and where he could be where could he affect? Where is he mispashet? So the first thing of Ein Sof he says is Shubchinas Ein Sof le'spashtuse. You say Leisis Harpanim is that there's no tchum, there's no limit of where Lukus is mispasht. Lukus is everywhere. There's no limit of, you say Lukus is higher than, you can't feel him. He's higher than the realm of feeling. Lukus is Ein Sof le'spashtuse. He could be felt, he could be understood. He's nimshach everywhere. Ein Sof is nimshach b'kol makim. He's mispasht b'kol makim. He exists on every plane of reality. It's Ein Sof l'spashtuse, without any limits. That's Bligvol. See the Pashta Musik of Bligvol. See we say Bligvol in Zman. Bligvol, you're not saying what type of thing it is. The Pashtas. We say the Musik of Bligvol. This thing exists for, it's a davar nitzchi. It exists for eternity. So you're not saying a word now, but you get the definition of the thing. There's a certain object. Certain objects only exist a certain amount of time, and then they have a hefsik, they have a seif. They have something else which has no limits. It exists for eternity. So that's al derech zman, al derech zemakim. You have where is this? Where you see the seichel is only nimshach on the meach. The leiv is not a keli to seichel. Kechatno could only be in the yad. So each thing has a agbala of where and how much it can be mispashal. Where it can be felt, where it can be nergash. Mashenkin alakus is Ein Sof l'spashtuse. So in Ein Sof bligvol, Ein Sof l'spashtuse. That's the first thing. So the first touch of Ein Sof, which is bligvol, heder agbala. So amitis inin zeh shaykh rak ba'atzmos mamish. Hagam, the whole etzem built him mispashtus. It means the etzem is higher than the idea of mispashtus. What is the musik of mispashtus? That it could be felt, he could affect everywhere. You say, just to bring out this word, you say the mashal keich zanevish, you have ratzin and you have seichel umidis. So seichel umidis have limitations. It's a keich prati, seichel is a keich prati, and it's melubash nakeli prati. Seichel could only be nirgash in the mayach. Mayach can understand, the heart can't understand an idea. Midis are nirgash believe. But the ratzin is not a keich prati. Ratzin is at the general eye, the person himself. me, I want something. I'm drawn to something. It's not a certain keich in me that resonates with a certain Indian. Like Seichel is in the keich, he understands something. It's not me myself. It's the when the person is mislabish keich Seichel, he understands kach v'kach. Mashik in Ratzin is that the general eye is nimshach. The general eye, so there's no specific aver which is a kedi to Ratzin. Ratzin is everywhere. You say Ein Sof L'Spashtusei. The Ratzin is Meir and nimshach and could be felt everywhere. It doesn't have a specific keli. It's not limited to a certain area, to a certain place. That's Ein Sof L'Spashtusei. So he says this musig of Ein Sof L'Spashtusei is not shy. The etzem called etzem biltim espashtus means that the etzem is higher than the whole idea of espashtus. So that means where is this Indian felt? Where is this Indian of what type of makabel feels in? The etzem is beyond the idea of being felt somewhere. The etzem is mufshet from that Indian. It's called etzem biltim espashtus. Means the tnu of espashtus doesn't express what the etzem is. Just to use a Gashmizik example, you say that a certain thing exists for eternity. You have one thing only exists a certain amount of time. Yeah, this one exists from 1 o'clock to Chvis, and you have something which exists forever. Why does this thing exist forever? What's the yesod that this thing exists forever? Say, could you have something that begins at he brings it later? Could you have something that begins at a certain time, and then is never ending? Saying if something which something is connected with time, that his existence is connected to the musik of Zman, by definition he can't be nitzchi. Because if he's built from time, and time itself, you say, could you have a table that starts off from here and that's going to be nimshach blikvol, it never ends. You can't have that. Why can't you have that? Because if the table begins from one amma, another amma, so you say blikvol amma, it's never going to end. For what's coming to organize? Because what is it built from? What's this table? What's the goal of the table built from? From different pieces. One amma, another amma. If you're going to take away one amma, it's going to be less. Take away another amma, it's also going to be less. So if you say that if you take away an amma, it's going to stay the same amount because it's blik vol, so then it started from these specific pieces. If you're going to take away one amma, so this amma is taken away. Another amma, this amma is taken away. So it's built from these ammas. These ammas are gvul. How could from these limited particles become mitamol blikvol? You can't take from limited particles something which is not limited. If it's built from amis, so then it can never leave the gather of amis. It's never going to become blikvol. Every am is mugdal. This table is built from one am, another am. But I take away an am, it's going to get smaller. So where's blikvol going to come from? From a ribid var megbalim, you can't have no limits. Each thing is limited. Something that's mugdal in zman is 1 minute. So 1 minute, another minute is never going to come without not limited in time. Something which is nitzchi means he's not limited in the musik of zman. So that means that he's higher than the musik of zman. If he's higher than the musik of zman, so when you say that he's going to exist forever, that expresses his Ein Sof. Something which is nitzchi means because he's not bound by the agbalos of zman. If he's not bound by the agbalos of zman, so he's higher than the musik of zman. So the fact that you're saying that he's going to exist forever, existing forever is not going to express his blikvol, because his blikvol is that he's not tied to the idea of zman. But maybe it's going to be forever also. You understand the Indian? He says even you see what ispashtus kol etzem biltim ispashtus means. He's high. You say his pashtus means that you're present in a certain place. If your mitzias is built from your presence in this makim and that makim and another makim, then you're limited. So it's because he's not mugder in any makim, because he's not limited in the whole idea of makim, therefore he's everywhere. So the etzem ha'inyan is not misbata in the ispashtus. Yeah, the status. Yeah, okay. I'm saying it's not. It's not in none of that we can see pictures of some. That's why that you can show you. It's not. It's but versteht, yeah, good. So this I'm just trying to take to it. He says, where does he say it? Kol etzem biltim mispashut. By definition, if you're speaking about an etzem being mispashut Ein Sof, then the etzem is the reason why it can be mispashut everywhere is because he's not bound by the musik of mispashtus. So Meir lagam b'kol etzem biltim mispashut. Mikom amitis neise in the Ein Sof mispashtus. It means who carries this tchuna of being Ein Sof, this pashtus? Only atzmus. He's going to explain. Versteht the minion? Oh, he says like this. What was dafka atzmos? He says like this. Kima shenetz av nizgale men atzmos. Anything which is nimshach and nizgale, any inyan aliki. All the Eibishter at Gevalt, and it says any inyan. You say a pashti inyan. The Eibishter himself is not muchrach in anything. So does there have to be the musik of Gilei Lukus? Be'etzem. Is the musik of Gilei Lukus needed? The whole idea of Gilei is in Chadash. The Eibishter himself is Hulevadi Hu Be'en Zolase. The Eibishter himself, there's no musik has to be. No idea has to be. No idea of Gilui, no idea of Chachma, of Chesed. Nothing has to be. So why is Chachma exist, L'mashal? Why does the din of Gilui exist? Why does the musik of Gilei Lukus exist? Because the Eibishter Gevalt. If Kaviyach of the Eibishter wouldn't want, it wouldn't exist. So how much does the din of Gilui Lukus contain? It's limited. It exists where the Eibishter wanted it to be. It exists. Something which is not connected to the idea of Gilui. So there, the musik of Gilui Lukus doesn't exist. So every inyan, there's no inyan which is mechuyev to be. The only thing that has to be is atzmos. Everything else, all other musagim, the hechste musagim as ken zayin, rotzen, chveis, pshittis, alle shenim, bligvol, the highest musag, any musik is mechudesh yesh ma'ayin. The Eibishter is not muchrach in anything. The Eibishter is higher than all musagim. So any musik, you say the Eibishter is a beira. The musik of bria was in chadash. So the kayach habriya v'lukus is you say it's a bligvol. Why is it bligvol? The musik where the Eibishter wants it to exist. At the same way you say a nivra is mugbal. Why is a nivra mugbal? Why is a shir mugbal? A shir doesn't have to be here. It doesn't exist inside itself. It exists because the Eibishter wanted it to exist. So how much does it contain? How much the Eibishter wants it to contain? More hotter nish is gvul. So there's not only a shir. Any inyan is nischadish. The Eibishter is not muchrach in anything. So any inyan, the highest inyan is. So how can you say that Gilui Lukus is everywhere? Why is it everywhere? Wherever the Eibishter wants, according to how much energy the Eibishter put into it, that's where it's going to be. More than that, hotter nish. See, the inyan of Gilui is ain't sof. Blig vol meichet eisa. That's what he says. He says, "Ki mashenetz of nizgal v'naatzmos hagam desham shaykh in a nice pashtus." There is shaykh to say that the fact that it's somewhere expresses its godless. You say, "In was besteht the takeif of rotzen?" That the rotzen is mispashet everywhere. So there's they say in Giluim of Elokus, in the different milas and haflois in the of Elokus, there is shaykh to say that a spashtus, the fact that he's mispashet, and the more he's mispashet, expresses his godless, expresses his in. But ein ze behem inyan atzmi mitzad atzma. But the fact that he's mispashet, when we see later, the fact that there's a musik of mispashtus by inyanim and Elokus, not atzmos, that's not an inyan atzmi mitzad them. It's not that this inyan is mispashet mitzad atzma. There's no inyan outside of atzmos that mitzad atzma is nimtza b'kol makim. He's going to say later, is ein sof l'spashtuse. The Gilui of Elokus, the fact that the Eibishter is nizgale and is Meir, is ein sof. But the fact that the Eir is ein sof is not because the musik of Gilui Elokus is ein sof. The musik of Gilui Elokus has no limits. What do you mean the musik of Gilui Elokus? The musik of Gilui Elokus be'etzem doesn't exist. The whole musik of Gilui doesn't exist. The fact that this idea exists is because the Eibishter wanted it to exist. So this in itself is not ein sof. It's limited according to the sibba that brought it into being. It says, ein ze beim inyan atzmi mitzad atzma. Since every inyan, besides for atzmos, every single inyan, the hechst inyan Elokus have a tchila. What does it mean have a tchila? It doesn't mean they began at a certain point of time. That means that be'etzem they don't exist. Mitzad their mitzias, mitzad atzmon, they're not nimtza. Mitzad atzma they don't exist. Why are they here? Mitzad a certain inyan they're here. So they're limited be'hessen to the inyan that's mechayev their mitzias. Yesh tchila means they have a certain. You need a certain. Their mitzias only exist mitzad certain conditions. Mitzad certain factors. Outside of their factors, they don't exist. And so, they're bligvol. Mitzad their gather. Only atzmos mamish. It means any musik, the hechst musagim v'sken zayin, that's all in of chiddush. Atzmos mamish, the only thing which is mechuyev mitzad atzmi. This is liyesik bechinas kadman amiti. The only thing which is his mitzias, the fact that he exists, is mechuyev mitzad himself. Is not mitzad him. Is only the Eibishter himself. Any other idea, there's no idea that has to be.
Why doesn't the fact that Atzmos made the Ein Sof?
He made it, so then,
but why does that make it Ein Sof mitzad Atzman? Hashem made it that way.
He made it that way. That's something else. That doesn't. But from their point of view, the shemesh is nitzchi. The shemesh means that its nature is a limited thing. The Eibishter wants that it shouldn't get weak. Good, so it has no limits. But is the shemesh by nature something which has no limits? How could the shemesh have no limits? No limits means that if your mitzias is built mitzad a certain inyan, so you're limited according to that inyan which is mechayiv you, not beyond that.
The way it was built is that it doesn't end.
I understand, but you say, let's say there was something which is created without limits. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not Hashem. She's Ein Sof Milchatchila. If I state, but that itself wouldn't be mitzad the thing itself. Maybe she created the musik of Gili, let's say. The musik of Gili in itself is Ein Sof. The idea that Elokus is revealed. The idea of revelation was created. The fact that Elokus is revealed, is that B'tzad Atzmei Ein Sof? So that doesn't have to be. The Eibusha needs the idea of Gili. I mean, from the Atzmos is more that there's a musik of Gili. The Atzmos is there's only him. So the musik of Gili Elokus, that was invented, so to speak. It's not Mechuyev Mitzad Atzmei, not Mitzad its nature. It has to be. So why is it there? Because there's a certain Indian why the Eibusha wants it to be here. So it's going to be here according to how much the Indian is Mechayev. Not that it's going to be Ein Sof.
It's not anything.
Basically, they don't go together.
Huh?
The innovative and specialist, they're not the same.
We'll see later the maskana. We're not dealing yet with the beer of this over here. We didn't create the maskana saying
It's not gvul mitzad atzma either. Then.
What do you mean it's not gvul mitzad?
It doesn't have to be gvul. Hashem's making it gvul also. The same way
No, we're not
it's
speaking.
something bleedable.
No, we're not speaking now mitzad Eibusha Kol Yachol. He's saying now mitzad apiseichel. Any inyan which yesh tchila yesh tichla. That's the klal. Any inyan which has a beginning has an end.
The shemesh shouldn't have a beginning mitzad atzma. The same way it doesn't have an end mitzad.
The fact that the shemesh was created, is that a true thing? It has a tchila.
It's as true as it's the fact that it goes infinite.
I don't understand. You're saying that David
David
is forced to have a son?
Isn't saying the fact that it goes infinite is not mitzad atzma?
No, of course not. But he's saying only something which has no tchila. He's saying why is it the table only exists in this room? Why doesn't only because it's only began in this room. Something is not going to be. They say there's a svara. Why is there a svara that I'm missing all of our let's say? If we're going to cancel Kol Yaseichel, if we're going to cancel, things don't have to make sense, let's say. This notion, things are going to be cancelled. So that svara is not going to exist anymore. Because its being is only because there's Akdama that things have to make sense. And after all these Akdamas, after all these Sibis, Yesh Tchila, in other words. He's not here mitzad atzmei. The svara mitzvah varayis doesn't exist on its own right, because it's something which has to be. Nothing has to be, only the Eibush has to be. So, what type of reality, what type of existence is a svara? It's an existence which is dependent on something. So anything which is dependent is not Ein Sof. It's dependent. So it's not Ein Sof. It's dependent on the tzibah, which is mechayiv. You leave that tzibah, so there'll be a safe. Nothing's Ein Sof. This is the say better like this. Anything which is dependent on an inyan cannot, by definition, be Ein Sof. Ein Sof means that this inyan has no limits. There cannot be an end. He has no end. Why doesn't he have no end? Huh? If he has a beginning, automatically he has an end. If he has a beginning means that he needs something to bring him into being. But from his own right, it doesn't exist. If you need something that has to cause your being, so you're only going to possess what that something gave you. And according to how much that, by definition, that means you're not Ein Sof. The only thing that has to be, mitzad himself, is the Eibusher himself. That's Atzmos. All other Musagim, the Hechst, the Yanav, is Kenan or Zayin. You say, why should it be Blikvul? That's the Ramak. Huh? He says, "V'rak b'chinas ha'atzmos." You see what he says? Me'achas shesh lem tchila, memeli yesh lem tichla mitzad atzmos. So, v'rak b'chinas ha'atzmos ma meshayich leim Ein Sof be'emes. L'yesib b'chinas kadmon ha'amiti she'ein le tchila. U'memeli ein le tichla. His mitzvah it doesn't begin from a certain nekuda. If it doesn't begin from a certain nekuda, so memeli it's everywhere. You say, why is the table only in this room? Or why is because the table is 2 amas big and it's you say why is you say Pashto Zach. Amazing world of Araya is true only in America or it's true in the whole world? It's true everywhere. Why is it true everywhere? Because its mitzvah is not. If its mitzvah has to do with America, if it has nothing to do with America, it's an Indian which has nothing to do with the place. Really, it's everywhere. If your mitzvah has a tchila, so you're going to be limited according to what's masim to your tchila, to your siba. But if your mitzvah is neveh mitzad yourself. This is something which has nothing to do, not mitzat something, not dependent on anything. This by definition exists, so it's everywhere. It's everywhere in B'kol Makom, it's Ein Sof Mamish. So since Atzmos Ein Leitchila, it's a Kadmon Amiti, B'meila Ein Leitchila. His Metzias is not Neveya, is not dependent on a certain Ilah V'Siba. B'meila is not Mugbal according to any Ilah V'Siba. He's Mechayiv Mitzad Atzmei. He's mechuyev inside himself, so he's everywhere. This bracket said before. It says, "Elishein Shaykh Lima bein selfless pashas b'payil." Say b'payil. What are we saying before? Then he gave b'payil. Kenim pchinas pashas v'amshach. We're saying before. You say something which is, you say the Eibishter is going to exist forever. It's trying to say the Eibishter is going to exist forever. Forever in our mind means he's going to be at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock. The whole musik of time doesn't exist like him. So it's not trying to say he's going to be here forever. The whole realm of time doesn't exist there. If we're going to initiate the musik of his mind, he's going to be forever too. But nicht in dem besteht. A person is bound to his man. So he can exist 2 years, 5 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. There's no musik of his man there. There's even the musik of his pashtus, that is there's an idea of being somewhere, of present. Some things are present in a limited space, some things are mispashet b'chol makom. But that shaykh is by an Indian, which is mispashet everywhere. To get this man, he's not begeder umedum. The whole musik of makom doesn't exist. B'meileh is in every makom. It's a whole different word. The idea of space, the idea of somewhere and there's this place and that doesn't exist legabi him. The harag bala doesn't exist. B'meileh is become makom, but the musik of his pashtus doesn't exist legabi him lachatchila. You understand the meaning? That means who contains the ability to be become makom. That shaykh lemer like b'chinas that's musim mamish. So we're going to say only the Eibishter can exist forever. But forever, that we say forever, is shaykhs legabe lukus. We can't be mitzayer the Eibishter's nitzchis outside of saying that he's going to be here forever. But the whole idea, and Taki can be here forever. But the musik, because but the musik of forever is really not shaykh there. The man zeh shtikel musik of dichsa. But I don't know exactly verb. Sayyid, you said Reisach in 770. And Bachar Mutizim, I don't know exactly. But basically, Bachar Mamal gets gefragt, say, where's the Eibishter? He said, what do you mean? Leisa Sarpanamine. The Eibishter is everywhere. Baruch asked him, yeah, but where was the Eibishter before there was a place? Before, he said, the Eibishter is everywhere. Where was he before the everywhere was created? He said, that's Shin Tarv. The Gemara says, now that I think Malafnim, Malacher, that you know that, that's kind of Nishtrach. See, the Eibishter for sure needs a place. Everything has to have a place. The Eibishter is everywhere. But what happened before there was space, B'chlal? I'm saying when we say the Eibishter is everywhere, it doesn't mean that before time, because he's not limited in time, therefore he's everywhere. Okay. Good. Aber Masha nimmt wenn mit ist Barich, hat er nicht beim Genesis of Betzen. Oh, so now Kiim, but we do find wir sollen gehen weiter ein bisschen. Or the Elam wants to relax a little bit. Let's do another line. Huh? It's time to relax. Huh? No, it's not in it. It's not negate. It's not kedai to rush this line. I'm really just going to say what's. He says in Saf Bertzaini Levad. He brings two dugmayos of musagim which are nimshach v'netzlam iti yisbarich, which are ein Saf, but they're not ein Saf inside that. He brings one eif in like the Ramesh says, like the Shemesh v'yerech, which are nitzchim, but that's not better. But etzim the Shemesh v'yerech are gvul. They started at a certain time, there's a certain point of Zman that they were in this Chadish. The fact that there's no Chalishis, that's the Kapela. It's at their gather they should have a Chalishis. The Eibishter cancels from them the musik of Gvul. But it's at their nature, Be'etzim they are Mugbul. That's one Eifin. Then he says another dogma. That's what the Rameh brings. Then he says, Ukumay be'er shu b'chnes ein Sal. That's already Chassidus. You say also, Er steht in Chassidus that Er is ein Sal, from Teishu Mein Amor. So this is already not like Shemesh. The Shemesh be'etzem is not blikvol. Shemesh is limited. It's at its nature. The Eibishter wanted, so the fact that the Shemesh is Ein Sof is nothing to do with the Shemesh. The Shemesh itself is not Ein Sof. Mashik and Er is Ein Sof. The Inin of Gilei of Elokus is blikvol, taka. But he says, but the Inin of blikvol is not mitzad, its own, not mitzad, not because the Inin of Gilei is Ein Sof, but because Er mein Amar. Because the whole musik of Er is Galus Amar. We'll see it's a different word, but the fact that the Shemesh v'Yerech is bli gvul, Shemesh v'Yerech by definition are gvul. It's kaviyachol technical that they have no chalishus, that they have no limits in their kiyum. Mashik in the air is taka bli gvul, air is taka ein sof. It is ein sof. But the fact that is Ein Sof is because what is is an expression of the Mer. Not that on its own right, so to speak. Inen Agili is not Ein Sof. But since the Musig of Gili is his Galusa Etzem, therefore it's Ein Sof. We'll have to see the Pratim, but that's...
Once you say the Shemesh shouldn't be, nothing should be, yeah?
I just want to read one thing. He says, he says, is Ein Sof because is this Galas Amar. It's also Tali Bertzeni. What's Tali Bertzeni? The fact that Mein Amar is Tali Bertzeni. He doesn't say that the fact that the is bleak vol. Once Kaviyachol Mein Amar, so Mein Amar is that the is Ein Sof. The fact that there's a musik of and that Mein Amar, that's all Mitzad Bertzeni is Baruch Levad. Not that by definition there's a musik of and there's a musik of Mein Amar. But it's different word than the word of the Rameh. The word of the Rameh is that it's bleak vol a pile. It's technical bleak vol. Mashaykin is Take Ein Sof. Okay, we'll have to see the... Because in Yonev it's not Mitzvah B'Shnei Atzmi, it's the Mer's Gilu.
It's not because it's Ein Sof.
Yeah. Because what is that the Etzim is mispashed. We'll have to see the pratim of this Indian. That's one of the Nekudas that, I mean, the whole Musik of is the Alter Rebbe's Chiddush. The Rameh Nish Geret V'Gnaz Hazach B'Chol. That's the Alter Rebbe's word. The Rebbe Shas bringing it in here. And seeing the Maimer is not as a... He brings in right away a word. This whole word of Mein Amar is a word of the Alter Rebbe. But Shas read the Ramak didn't hold it as Musik of Er. So the Ramak said that only Atzmus is Ein Sof. And all P'chinas Gili is not Ein Sof. The Kabbalah Marashem is an under Zach. He brings it. The Rames says that there's Ein Sof but that's not Beir. The Alter Rebbe says that there's a P'china L'mayla which is Ein Sof, but not because that P'china is Ein Sof, because Hotesh Ken Egin Mahus, his whole Indian is Gili Amar. We'll have to see the. But I think before we get into the Pratim of this Indian, we'll do Va'beis first. And then... You want easy in Yonim? I'm saying, what do we want? No, I'm saying not easy. I'm saying it's not a question of easy. It's a bisschen reintrachten. Okay, let's say that. Let you have a menucha bisschen.
Once you say that nothing should exist, yeah?
Nothing has to be.
So
nothing must be from its own right.
So
the Eibishter wants something else.
The Shemesh should be limited, but
Shemesh should. That's you don't have to come up to any big lumdus. The Shemesh is a limited being.
It's not even that Ba'atzim. It's not even.
It's nothing, right? Ba'atzim is nothing.
So why are we saying it should be more limited than it should be unlimited? It's just a shy.
No, what I'm saying, no, it doesn't have to be at all. But I'm saying something. Once you brought it into being, limited it could be.
Why should it be more limited than unlimited?
No, it's not. It just should. It doesn't have to be. It's not saying it doesn't have to be anything. But apiseichel, something that was created, so it's going to be limited to how much energy was invested in it. But how can it be unlimited? If it's created, then by definition it's limited, not unlimited. It was brought into being. If it was brought into being, we invested energy in this. But a limited amount, not big vol.
Should be limited. The fact it's unlimited. That's why Ba'atzim doesn't have to be. Should it be limited?
It doesn't have to be. Nothing has to be. Ba'atzim doesn't have to exist b'chlal.
Yeah.
But once we made it, so what does it mean we made it? We invested a certain amount of energy in it. So how much? It's going to be how much we gave it. It's going to be not big vol.
And the pile is big vol because
David Shaw wants it to be big vol.
And even that big vol is big vol its own. In what it has big vol.
It doesn't have limits. The Shemesh has no limits.
He has certain limits. He's not.
The Gabi the Kiyum, the Gabi the Kiyum.
Even the Shemesh has no limits.
The Gabi the Kiyum, the Gabi it's Kiyum.
Gabi Kiyum. It
doesn't have limits.
It's once we create something.
It has legal energy now.
Because the Abishah decided to give him legal Kiyum.
What are we debating over here?
I think I'm just trying to get it.
Huh?
It was trachting them. What are you saying?
You're more realistic.
Yeah, it's a whole different Indian. It's Ein Sof Be'emes. We'll see later the Pratim. It's Ein Sof Be'emes.
The other one is not Ein Sof Be'emes?
By the Shemesh. Shemesh is technical. We'll see when he gets there. Ein Sof. There's Pratim.
The point was the same.
We're going to see the Pratim.